What are the highest grossing movies of this year going to be? This half year has been full of box office disappointments, but the one or other box office surprise also happened. And so I thought I'd try to predict the top 10 highest grossing movies of 2024 with how much they'll gross. And we'll see if I'm right at the end of 2024. Oh, and just so you know, I left out any high budget Indian or Chinese blockbusters. Okay, I'd say let's get started with
We're Venom!
We are.
Venom!
No.
Oh!
Yeah,
We
are. Venom. We're gonna need to work on that.
Venom: The Last Stand is releasing on the 25th of October. The last two Venom movies made a ton of money. The first one grossed over $850 million. The second one quite a bit less, with a bit over $500 million. But to be fair, that was kind of released at a time where we were just getting over the COVID pandemic. So I think this one's going to make quite a bit more than The Last Venom. What may be a problem for this one though is that The Last Venom wasn't received very well, and that may hinder people from going to see this one. Overall, I'm predicting around $620 million. I mean, do I have to say more than that this is a new Lord of the Rings movie? Every single Lord of the Rings movie has made at least $870 million. So this movie has a high shot of making a ton of money. Also, there hasn't been a Lord of the Rings movie for 10 years now. So I think fans will be hyped for the Lord of the Rings, the War of the Rohirrim. There is one big problem this movie has though, and that is that it's made in the style of an anime, which will scare away a lot of the general audience. That's why I think this movie will make around $670 million.
Crew's been compromised!
As of recording this video, Despicable Me 4 has made $255 million globally, which is a bit less than Despicable Me 3 made in the same time period. Overall, I do think this movie will make substantially less than Despicable Me 3 because a lot of the last blockbusters had problem with the international box office, specifically with China. So I don't think this will be any different. Either way, that's why I think this movie is going to make around $700 million.
Have you ever had a dream about your first ride?
Don't try to impress anyone.
Dune Part 2 has already been released on the 1st of March, so the box office isn't going up anymore. I mean, $712 million is going to guarantee its place in the top 10 of the highest grossing movies of this year, especially because it's currently second. I do think though there are some movies that will overtake it, or at least have the potential to do so. Do you know what else has potential? My subscriber count. I mean, by the looks of it, almost no one who watches my videos is subscribed. I'm trying to reach 200 subscribers by the end of 2024, so please hit the subscribe button if you haven't yet.
This story begins far beyond the mountains and the shadows. On the other side of the light.
I probably would have placed Mufasa: The Lion King lower in terms of box office if it weren't for Inside Out 2. I mean, we saw last year that people are kind of getting tired of Disney movies. The Little Mermaid, Wish, or even Elemental didn't really perform overly well, and the Lion King live-action remake of 2019 wasn't received well by critics. What this movie does have going for it though are two things. The first thing being that the Lion King was just unbelievably successful, which naturally gives the sequel a good chance to also take some of that with it. And secondly, the last Lion King movie was received well by audiences. I do still think it will make substantially less than The Last Lion King, simply because this movie is actually a prequel and those tend to underperform. So I think this movie is going to make around $730 million. I think this movie will make even more money than the last Moana because the first Moana was received very well by critics and general audiences. So those same people will probably go to watch the sequel. And of course we have Dwayne Johnson, whose movies always automatically make some more money. So I'm predicting $820 million for Moana 2.
Whose head could I give you that would satisfy this fury?
The entire Roman armies.
Too much.
The general will do.
The trailer for Gladiator 2 just dropped on Tuesday, and I think this movie has a lot of potential to gross very high numbers. I mean, The Last Gladiator didn't make that much by today's standards. It made close to $500 million in 2000. What's probably going to be the bigger factor for this movie is just how well the first Gladiator has been received by audiences and critics. It reached a point that this movie is basically seen as a classic, so a sequel will just automatically be highly anticipated. And the bonus is that we have Ridley Scott directing it again, which also takes away some of the doubts the viewers could have. That's why I think this movie will make $890 million. Folie à Deux is pretty much guaranteed to be one of the top 10 movies of this year, simply because of two things. The first is that the last Joker movie made $1 billion at the box office, and the other is that the first Joker was very well received by audiences and critics, which will help this movie a lot. Overall, I'm predicting about $1 billion for this movie.
You aren't packed yet?
I'm the worst! Well, that's a preview of the next 10 years.
Inside Out 2 is currently the highest grossing movie of this year, and I can only see this movie getting beaten by one other movie, which I'll come to in just a minute. Its box office is currently at $1.2 billion, and I think it will climb up to about $1.35 billion as its end result. I honestly don't know how this happened. I mean, all factors pointed towards this movie making less than the original, and yet Inside Out 2 just comes in and breaks record after record. Anyway, let's move on to
Wade Wilson?
Who's asking?
Whoa, 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 whoa. Is that supposed to be scary? Pegging isn't new for me, friendo, but it is for Disney.
I mean, Deadpool and Wolverine is currently tracking to make $165 million on its opening weekend, which is a huge number and would be the highest ever opening for an R-rated movie. And normally when the tracking is very high, the actual earnings tend to be even higher. So I'm predicting a $180 million domestic opening, which would only be $20 million shy of the first Avengers. The biggest problem this movie could have is that superhero movies tend not to have long legs at the box office, but even with that, this movie is going to be one of the highest grossing movies of this year, guaranteed. I'm predicting around $1.5 billion for this one. To see how good Beverly Hills Cop 4 is, click here. That's been it. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and bye.